I've been meaning to actually record this for a very long time. I've been watching all of my friends just do their own versions of this video. I've been taking inspiration from them, but I've also just been piling up my TBR with all of their recommendations. That's one of the reasons I really like this tag in general, is because I can get a lot of recommendations, especially from people that I trust in the book community. If you have recorded this tag, feel free to leave the link in the comments because I want to check it out and I want to see what has made your year a great reading year. I think it's also a perfect recommendation video for people who are looking to invest time and money in new releases but aren't really quite sure because there isn't exactly a big fan base yet. It really helps shorten but also make your TBR a lot longer. I'm rambling right now, so let's just go for the first question. It's Circe by Madeline Miller. I read this book from the library. I clearly don't have any of my books around me right now. Everything's packed up. I finally moved out of my apartment. I couldn't really get physical copies of the ones that I have read that are included in this video. But it doesn't really matter because most of the books I've read this year have been through Libby. I've been using the library a lot and it's something that I want to keep doing. But Circe, I lost my mind over this book. If you're into Greek mythology, Madeline Miller has one of the most beautiful writing styles I've ever experienced. It was such a good blend of fantastic elements, but also raw emotion. It made me cry like a goddamn baby. I cried so hard at the end of this book. My boyfriend was very much concerned over my well-being. I want to read Song of Achilles because it's the only other book in her backlist, but I also don't want to not have anything else of hers to read. So I'm gonna wait. If you believe you and I have very similar reading tastes, then this one definitely is for you. I am really bad at reading series and sequels specifically. Most of it is because I have very bad memory issues. If I read a book one year and then by the next year I have to read the sequel, I am not gonna remember anything I read unless it was particularly impactful. Most of the time we'll have to reread the first book so I can get to the next book. That is awful for someone who's such a heavy mood reader like I am. It's really hard for me to just tell myself, oh yes, you're gonna read this right now because you have to read the sequel, but in my brain's going like, nope, no, then I just won't ever pick it up. But it doesn't happen as often when I read romance books. So I picked up Brazen and the Beast by Sarah McLean, and this book is too good. Like, too good. Historical romance is one of my favorite subgenres of the romance genre. Sarah McLean is one of my favorite authors. Her Bare Knuckle Bastards series is definitely my favorite of hers. I believe Daring and the Duke, which is the third one in the series, is coming out tomorrow, which is the 30th of June. But this installment broke me in the best of ways. It's one of those romances that just strips you down and makes you root for these characters the entire time. Wit and Hattie have one of the most fabulous dynamics I've read in a book in a long time. Their romance felt very real, very raw, but also just very tender. And the sexy bits, whew. Wit is a dirty talker. His dirty talking had me blushing so hard. I can't stop smiling when I think about it. My expectations were high, but this book surpassed them. It's a very angsty romance. Don't go into it thinking it's fluffy. There are fluffy bits and the dialogue is always very engaging and fun, but this series specifically is very angst-filled. 2020 has been awful for my TBR because there are so many books being published and that have been published that I really want to read. Some of these are Meet Cute Club by Jack Harbin. I heard it's an Opposites Attract romance and I'm very excited for it because I love Jack. We're mutuals on Twitter. Obviously this book is going to be a good time because we also have very similar tastes in romances, which is great for me. Another book that I really want to read that already came out is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I think everyone on my timeline has told me to read this, and I believe that it is going to be one of my favorite reads of the year. I'm still kind of scared though because y'all have been crying a lot. I already cry enough. I'm gonna have to prepare myself mentally for it. I'm also very excited to read Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I have to read Get a Life, Chloe Brown first. There are reasons why I haven't read it yet, and it's mostly because I'm trying to get through her entire backlist before I read the Avon books, but I'm also swamped with arcs right now, and I'm trying to balance everything out. There's so many more books that have already been published that I need to read, and I'm just gonna, because the one ones that I'm really excited about definitely are A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, Who Had Me at Ola by Alexis Daria, The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson is another book that I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm also really excited to read Blaze Wrath Games by Amparo Ortiz, and I also am very excited to read Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. I have arcs for a lot of these, but I'm looking forward to the ones that I just listed the most. The year has been really good for me reading-wise, but my biggest disappointment has to be Satan's Scholar by Holly Trent. If you watch my first reading vlog, you would see how I was very excited to read this book, and then it kind of just plummeted, especially when they did the thing that I hate. I don't want to focus on the negative, so let's move on to the positive. There have been so many surprises this year. A lot of romances that I expected to just mildly like, I ended up really loving. And one of them is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. You saw me tweet about this book if you follow me on Twitter. It's definitely one of those books that could have gone really wrong, but they did everything so well. It ended up just living in my head rent-free. Another book that I want to include in biggest surprise, even though I haven't finished reading it, definitely has to be The Roommate by Rosie Danan. This book is going to be out in September. It is already one of my favorite romances of all time. If you really like The Kiss Quotient, you're definitely going to like The Roommate. I'm just so happy I picked this one up, so I needed to include it in this video. I have a lot of favorite new authors, but definitely Ruby Lang is going to be the one I'm going to add to this list. I read Open House by Ruby Lang. It is also a rom-com set in New York City. It's one of those romances that does touch on political issues like gentrification and race and just interracial relationships where both partners are people of color. I know I'm going to devour the rest of her backlist, so I'm very excited to include her on my auto-buy list of romance authors. This is also a book that I am currently reading, which is Where Dreams Descend by Janelle Angeles, and I am jack trash. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is this one character called the Master who speaks to everything that I enjoy. There's just something about him. Anyway, next question. I have read a lot of romance, so there's gonna be a lot of characters that I won't actually be able to read more about. So I want to choose someone that I can probably engage more with in future books or installments. So I am going to go with Maya from Deal with the Devil. Now, Maya is a secondary character in this series, but she took my heart instantly. She's a very girly girl who embraces her femininity, and though I am not cis, I do really love the concept of femininity. She's energetic and caring and loving, and when her installment comes in, I'm gonna be all for it. I really want to reread this right now because Deal with the Devil, they really did a good job at making an ensemble cast that I am already obsessed with. I already said it, but Circe is the book that has made me cry the most this year. I'm not much of a crier when it comes to books, but this book definitely made me cry a lot. Brassen and the Beast also made me cry. I also cried in Open House. There's just this really cute scene that also was very emotional for me. I ended up tearing up a lot, but I haven't had like a heavy cry like I did with Circe, so that's my final answer. I feel like a lot of the books that I've read this year have made me extremely happy. I haven't read something that has made me just hate. I haven't read something that has been like super hard lately, and I think that's good for me. I shouldn't pick up anything that is going to make my energy go down anymore, but here are some other books that have made me extremely happy this year. I wish I could show y'all which one it is. I was going to skip this question because I have no idea where it is, but the most beautiful book I have bought this year is definitely the Waterstones edition of The Starless Sea. Thank you so much to Unseelie Witch for facilitating this for me. She very kindly sent it over after I PayPal'd her the money to purchase it for me, and I'm so happy it's in my hands, and thank you so much, and I'm definitely gonna display it as soon as I get out of this mess. And last but not least, there are way too many books that I need to read by the end of the year. I am exhausted just thinking about it, and I don't want to keep thinking about it because it's going to give me a headache. I'm going to just show you. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm sorry if it's a little short, but when you don't really have any other physical copies, it kind of gets a little boring. I still hope you got some good recommendations to last you the rest of the year and more, because let's be honest, there are too many books and too little time. Thank you so much for supporting, and I know I mentioned my Twitter a lot in this video, so I'm just gonna link it down below because that's usually where I talk about books, and I'll see you next video.